And welcome back. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee says he plans to appeal a ruling that would remove the National Guard in Memphis. A decision handed down by a Chancery Court judge out of Nashville for a temporary injunction sides with Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris and other lawmakers who challenged the legality of the Guard's deployment. Here to talk more about what comes next is one of the lawmakers behind the lawsuit. Please welcome Representative Gabby Salinas back to 3 at 3. Representative, glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me again.
Were you surprised at all when you learned that the governor says he will appeal?
No, I wasn't surprised. This is within his rights to do to file the appeal. So I wasn't surprised for him and his decision to file the appeal.
Let's talk about you and other plaintiffs. You argue that Governor Lee could not deploy the National Guard to respond to civil unrest unless there is a rebellion or invasion. What kind of prompted all of this?
Right, so the county mayor has not requested their presence here. The city mayor has not requested their presence here. No resolution was filed. Absent those requests, the governor is allowed to send in the National Guard, but he has to consult with the legislature, and the judge agrees with us in our interpretation of not only our Constitution, but the laws that govern all Tennesseans, including the governor.
Does this also pertain to the overall Memphis Safe Task Force, or are we just talking about the National Guard?
So our lawsuit deals just with the National Guard and the powers of the governor and what he has decided to do, and the fact that those decisions do not align with our Constitution or our laws. So that is what that lawsuit specifically deals with. I know there are other lawsuits that are looking at other parts of the task force as well. When
you look at this measure, and of course the pushback, some saying, all right, we have the Memphis Safe Task Force. We're seeing some crime numbers actually going down, even though MPD says at the beginning of the year we saw those numbers begin to dwindle as well. What do you say to those who say, wait a minute, the task force is doing a good job here, and we still want them here, as well as the National Guard being a part of it?
Well, I'll speak to the National Guard and the legality of how that comes about. We're either a nation of laws or we're not. We're either a state that follows our laws or it doesn't. And how you get somewhere matters. It matters. So it should matter to all Tennesseans whether our Constitution was followed or not, and that no one is above the law, not even the governor or the president of the United States. So the decision agrees with that.
Bring us up to date. We're hearing some reports out that as many as 800 National Guard troops could be in Memphis as of today. Of course, there's some, speculation that that number might be off a bit. What are you hearing? Have you heard from the governor's office? What do you want to know?
I think this is one of the biggest issues that I personally have, is the lack of transparency that's happened from day one. And this is something that we found out through the courts as well. They asked for a physical order of what the Guard was supposed to be doing, how many people are assigned, and the governor and his people affirmed that these documents do not exist. So that should concern all Tennesseans. I think it's a disrespect to our armed forces. I have been writing the governor multiple letters since September. I have not gotten a single response, and they're basic questions.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. How many people are here? What are they tasked to do? Who do they report to? How are you measuring success? What is your exit strategy? None of those are in any document that has been produced by the administration. That should concern every citizen, whether you want the National Guard here or not.
So what are they doing here? Because again, a lot of folks have said, yeah, I've seen them in some parts of downtown. I've seen them in Midtown Memphis, maybe just patrolling some areas. What else are they doing?
We have not gotten a straight answers. A lot of the times they answer what we have seen them say to the media is what they are not going to be doing. Okay, we've gotten an answer in terms of they're not going to be making arrests. Okay, so what does their work actually look like? Especially considering that they're potentially sending more people in. How many are they sending? I don't know. Where are they going to be? I don't know. These are the questions that I have asked of the governor in writing and have not gotten a response.
What type of feedback are you getting from those in your district? Some constituents who might be really, I guess, concerned about how this is kind of playing out for them. Are individuals being targeted unfairly, you think? How do you see this?
We all want a safer Memphis. I spend a lot of time working towards that. But we don't want a safer Memphis at the expense of people's civil rights. Yesterday when I gave out the news to the press, I used the podium that Martin Luther King used to deliver some of his last addresses here in the city of Memphis. So we want to make sure that people's civil rights and civil liberties are respected within this. We have seen a lot of racial profiling, and that hits Black and brown communities the harshest. We've seen people that have not done anything, that are citizens, be taken up by ICE. That is what's happening in our community, and in a country of laws, that should not happen. I have no problem with targeted approaches to crime, but this cannot happen, not when we are a country of laws that would like to, take pride in our civil liberties.
One last thing here, Representative, where should we go from here? I mean, whether the National Guard, Memphis Safe Task Force are here for another few weeks or another year, what should be the next step in this conversation when it comes to issues like poverty, crime, education, and so forth, and investments?
Yeah, so the governor right now is having his budget hearings. I think we need to see deeper investments in our education system that is not through vouchers. We have seen in my district only 11 people received vouchers.
Only 11
Only
in your
11
district?
in the northern part of the district,
Okay.
so Fraser area. Seeing more investments in higher education, job development, healthcare. Right now, the federal government was shut down because healthcare costs are going up for everyday Americans, and those issues are hitting Tennessee the hardest and hitting my district the hardest. So I would like to see bigger investments in those areas.
Representative Gabby Salinas, always good to see you.
It's great to see you.
Thank you.